Okay, so there's this big topic going on as far as Bautista versus The Rock.
Okay.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So Bautista did an interview, and he kind of was asked about that whole situation as far as, did you want to be the next Rock?
Right.
And he was more like, no, not I never wanted to be the next Rock. I didn't want to be the next John Cena. They went from wrestling to being movie stars.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go from wrestling to be an actor. I am an actor now. I am not a wrestler. So I wanted to be a respected actor.
Okay.
All right. Now,
and I can see what he means by that, because they were kind of larger than life, and it was more along it was the Hulk Hogan effect, where it's like, hey, I'm a wrestler, but I'm a big enough name, and I'm marketable, and you can put me in a movie, and that movie will make money, and so on and so forth. I didn't earn my way to get into this particular movie. I am just somebody of noteworthy that was given this opportunity to be in this movie. He wanted to say, hey, I am now done with wrestling. I am an actor at this point, and I want to kind of work my way up or earn his spots in whatever he gets. I get that, even though you can't truly do that. Nobody's going to forget that you're Bautista, and then that you fought MMA and all this other stuff. And it's like, we know who you are. We can't just say, oh yeah, that guy used to do wrestling. No, we can't do that. Right. We know who you are. You didn't, and unfortunately, he only did a few small films before he got the big roles. Now, were those big roles based on the fact that he could act? Maybe. Or were they based on the fact that it was Bautista and he was marketable?
Right. Mm-hmm. So you think about that, and I mean, realistically, the WWE was more or less a platform for all those guys.
Yes.
Including Hogan.
And they all know that.
Yeah, but including Hogan, if it wasn't for that, you would not get... let me just take that back. I think Rocky 3 helped with Hogan's popularity.
Okay, yeah.
And that actually helped the WWE in a sense, because I don't think I think without Rocky 3, I don't think the first WrestleMania is as successful, because you have Mr. T in there also. So so that dynamic's a little bit different, especially since the choices that Hogan made were not of any substance, let's be real, with the exception of Rocky 3.
I don't think Hogan was ever trying to be a legit, thespian actor type deal. He wanted to do, hey, they're going to cast me. It's a fun movie. I get to play a different character. His whole life was still wrestling. It was just like, these are kind of side projects that I'm doing. I'm still a wrestler at heart.
And that's a good point, because it was like what Bautista says, that I'm an actor now. Mm-hmm. Hogan was saying, no, I'm still a wrestler. I just like to act.
Yeah.
And some would argue about the acting part, but it's okay. I mean, hey,
a lot of people would argue about that.
Mr. Nanny, but anyway. Of course, everybody, of course, to me, Piper and They Live, that's really hard to beat at times, so I can't.
I mean, and Piper was like, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, that's good enough. Escape from Frogtown, or whatever the hell that movie was.
Oh, I didn't even see that one.
But anyway, so you're looking at The Rock's road. I want to go to The Rock now.
Okay.
So The Rock leaves WWE more or less in 2003. He does The Mummy Return as a side character. Right. And then basically gets replaced at the end as a CGI character.
Yeah.
Right. By late 2003, or that was 2002 for The Mummy. 2003, more or less, that's when he gets into the Scorpion King.
Right.
Which pretty much produces Hollywood Rock. So you got some good on that, right?
Right.
Then you go into your Walking Talls, and you go into the Rundowns, and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure Rundown came out first, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like, you go to those little side projects, right? And then he just blows up once.
Right.
I would say that he probably blew up around Fast 5. What do you think? That was 2011. I can't think of anything that was really big that he did around that time.
Like he did Tooth Fairy, he did Walking Tall, he did what's the one with the Snitch?
Yes, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's where I think the unfairness of Bautista's comments, that's where I kind of like
he did a lot of films to kind of hone his acting skills moving up before he got blockbusters.
Exactly.
I mean, he led roles and stuff like that where like, this movie is starring Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, where they had to include The Rock in there so we knew who it was. But I mean, like, these weren't big budget films. These were small films. They just got a lot of notoriety. Yeah, notoriety because he was in the film. That doesn't mean that he wasn't still working himself up to be an actor. As a matter of fact, I think around those times when he was doing those small films, he was even going back to acting school to make sure that his acting was going to get better. So he was putting in the work to become a great actor, even though he was still flirting back and forth with wrestling. Same could be said with Batista, because even in with WWE, even when Batista was gone, if he had a big project coming up, Batista would make appearance in WWE. And it's like, because he had to market it through WWE, and WWE would also use marketing. It's like, oh, we got Batista back, and he's doing this movie, he's going to be in this. So even though he was like, I'm no longer a wrestler, I am now an actor, he still milked the wrestling part of it to help make sure the movie got marketed.
Okay. When you're looking at, him saying that, and you look at the roles that he's choosing, because it's very diverse. Now, you look at The Rock right now, I mean, let's be honest, I'm like Rock fan number one here, but let's be real, for a majority of the part, a lot of them are just The Rock.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just
some of your big leading actors are just themselves.
Right.
Will Smith.
Right, true. Vince Vaughn. But, Kevin Hart. But you look at Jumanji, then you look at Rampage, and you look at the Hobbs and Shaw. He's basically looks exactly the same in the entire out of all these things. So when you're judging choices right now, Batista's putting in the better work. Rock is making more money, but Batista's putting in the better work.
When you have better work.
But he's putting out better work in a sense where his acting and how he did, like, let's just say in the role choices that he's making, like in Blade Runner or Spectre or The Glass Onion, stuff like that. Okay. There is a lot more substance to what Bautista is doing right now than what The Rock is doing. But that's because a lot of people.
So more of the roles is like, because Bautista is willing to get himself out of the action.
He's looking for the better roles that can improve his range. He's gonna have this Shyamalan movie coming out pretty soon. Okay. Knock at the Cabin, and it looks really freaking interesting. And he again, it's an interesting role. Okay. So I'm looking at his choices as maybe they're not as big money makers, and not. Army of the Dead comes to mind and stuff like that, but they have substance to it, and his range is getting stretched.
The Rock could make the same thing, and he's like, I've already done those films.
Thank you, and that was my point. Right now, that's where Bautista is. The Rock was in Bautista mode back then.
Yeah, when he started his career.
When he started out, because there was a lot of substance in his performance in Snitch. There was a lot of substance in his performance in Faster.
Faster, that was the other one. Walking Tall.
Walking Tall, there was a lot there too, and he was barely coming out for Walking Tall, but he did really freaking good in that movie. So he did those movies. Now the thing that I have heard is when he says something about only interested in making that money because it's more like about his brand now. And I think that's what hindered The Rock more, is that the minute that he became a brand, then there is no true substance to whatever he's choosing. It's now about the brand, because you take a movie like, and I don't know if you remember this one, but there is a movie called Southland Tales with him, and I want to say Sarah Michelle Gellar. It was a straight to DVD type of.
I remember movie. The DVD. I never watched it though.
Yeah, and I don't remember too much. I saw scenes. And, even then, it looked like that would be a movie that Bautista's doing now. Okay. But he did it back then. And the way it's been, that I've read on certain things, is that he don't ever want to do that again. Because that was, it was basically not a moneymaker. Okay. So now that he's a brand and he's got the ego and he's got all of that, now the choices are a little bit different.
Okay.
So, what do you think about that?
All right, so thinking about, like, your A-list actor now. Right? It's the same thing for them. They're all brands too. Do you see Tom Cruise doing a small role anymore?
Tropic Thunder.
That was a long time ago. It was a long time ago.
I'm pretty sure he'd do that role again.
I mean, if they did a Tropic Thunder 2, he probably would do that role. But hey, you know what? If they decided to do a Get Shorty 3 or 2, or because Get Shorty was, or Be Cool.
Be Cool's 2. Yeah.
Be Cool or Get Shorty 3, whatever you want to call it. He might show up to do that one. He might come back for a small cameo role. But the thing about it is that when you have an A-list actor who demands a lot of money, or where the film can't just say like, hey, we're going to put you in this role for XYZ amount when we can use you to help market this film, well, then now it's a blockbuster at that point. So it's definitely got to make money. And if it's going to be a blockbuster, then I have to make money. And it's like, it's got to make a certain amount, or people are going to talk about it's a failure.
Right.
Batista can still do those small roles because he's not the focal point of the movie. Batista has only been like the lead actor in a movie maybe 3 times. What was the one with the little girl that he recently did like a couple? And that didn't do well at all.
It came and went.
Yeah, exactly. That one didn't do well at all. It was like, so when you're put as the main focus or the big star of the film, yeah, the point of the film is to do well because you demand higher salary and there's a lot more expectations on it. Smaller roles don't have a lot of expectations on them, so yeah, you can do some little small quirky things where somebody else is the main actor of the film, or it's very low budget where you can focus on the quality of the material with no expectations of it having to make money. But when you do a Guardians of the Galaxy, that movie's expected to make money. I don't care if you didn't expect the movie to make money, but they expect that movie to make money, right?
Okay.
So he's doing those films. He did 3 of them.
Yeah. So
Dune was expected to make money, was it not?
Yes, but and it did more or less, and it got all the notoriety in the Oscars and all that. But that's what I'm talking about. Is like, his choices are just different at this stage right now. Like, and that's what I said. Like, this is kind of like Bautista's 2002, 2003, 2004.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. Now, if The Rock could ever, because you said it right now. If The Rock ever wanted to do something like that, to me, his performance in Pain and Gain was freaking awesome. And
there you go. That's a perfect example. That's a Mark Wahlberg film. He had a smaller role in it.
And he was fantastic in it.
He can still do those roles, but right now people are offering him summer blockbuster. Right. So it's like even Vin Diesel is asking, please come back to Fast. Please come back to Fast, so that way we can make more money off of it. It's because he's very marketable right now.
Right.
And Bautista will be that way. Bautista can be that way if he chooses, and that's his choice. He wants to do some smaller things, but the minute he gets to a point where he wants to do something where he's the star, that's a blockbuster at that point. And that point, that movie is then looked at to be having to make a certain amount of money. And unfortunately, he's not doing those roles right now. He's doing smaller roles, and he's fine with doing those roles because he's done Guardians, he's done Dune. He's done all his big roles where in WWE paid him enough money. Well, I guess we could be saying all this shit about The Rock too. But he's at a point right now where he's not worried about the money. He wants to do something that's fun. But Bautista can be in a movie and not be the star. It's hard to make The Rock in a movie where he's not the star unless you cast somebody bigger than him. Mark Wahlberg was bigger than him.
Okay, and that's fair. I'm looking forward to the day that he does, though. I'm looking forward to the day that he does take a step back and
go back to those
and get at least.
It might be after Black Adam.
I agree with you on that one.
It might be after Black Adam. He may stop saying that, like, hey, because of your Jungle Cruise and your Rampage, and now Black Adam, where they didn't make the money that they were supposed to make.
Jungle Cruise did make money.
Oh, it did?
It did make money, yes.
Well,
Jumanji made a lot of money.
Well, I know, because, that's why I didn't. Rampage didn't make a lot of money. Black Adam didn't make a lot of money. So those might be the ones where he was like, hey, let me take a step back where I want to do something that I really truly believe in, and it doesn't have to be a big blockbuster. Yeah, the brand's one thing because he's selling other things. And it's like, hey, all the other things that he's involved in, though,
the tequila, the energy drink,
they're all tied to him. Batista's not doing any of that stuff, and that's fine to not do anything like that. But you can't fault him for, hey, I have to make sure that it continues on as well.
Well, what's funny is that, when you're looking at the dollar amount, more or less, but Batista's no slouch. He's got The Rock's films have collectively grossed $10 billion. Okay? Batista's films have collectively made $7 billion.
He's picked some really great franchises to be in. So.
Currently, right now, Bautista is in the second highest grossing film of all time, and that's Endgame. Mm-hmm. So he has that under his belt.
Right.
The Rock, a majority of The Rock's fortune comes from Fast, because Fast was the Fast 7, Fast, all those made $1 billion. And then I want to say Fate even did $1 billion. So 9 did $1 billion. Like all these freaking movies do all this money. So that kind of helps. Which is ironic considering that, he doesn't want to go back to that. But, I get it. Anyway. But yeah, and then the odd man out right now is John Cena, because, I don't see John Cena as, with the exception of Peacemaker, because he's absolutely freaking perfection in that.
I think Peacemaker is what showed everybody that he can be.
Yes, and I think that he's next.
That's why he's doing all these commercials and stuff like that. It showed people that John Cena is really marketable and he can lead a role. He can have a leading role in something. I would like to see him they do a movie for him. I think it's time. I think he got a late start, not just because of wrestling, just because people just didn't see it. He had to go through his Rock phase. He had to do the Daddy's Home. He had
he had to do like 12 rounds in the Marine.
Yeah, he had to do those. Good movies, but he had to do the smaller films, and like it just took a while for him to start getting to where like, hey, John Cena is somebody we should be really looking at. I hope he gets to that point where like we see the next blockbuster movie that comes out led by John Cena, or even if it's a smaller movie, but something that's very interesting to him because he deserves to get those type of roles.
Yeah, but I just, like I said, because a lot of people
should have been Shazam.
Currently, right now, everybody's shitting on The Rock because of Black Adam, and to a point, rightfully so. I think, and I don't even want to call it Black Adam. I just want to call it Superman cameo. That's a movie. That's what grossed $390 million as a Superman cameo. That's all. That's
Look, I like Black Adam. It was good.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it too.
People are crapping on this movie because it didn't perform well. I don't like Guardians as much as people like the first Guardians. I didn't like it as much as people liked it, but because it made a lot of people talk about how much they love that movie.
People don't like Black Adam right now and crapping on The Rock right now because Henry Cavill is no longer Superman.
Ain't his fault.
In a way, it is, but
in a way, his fault.
In a way, it is.
They can still do Man of Steel without him. I mean, they can still do Man of Steel with Henry Cavill. They ain't got nothing to do with
No, they can't because they're going to completely redo the whole thing. That's how.
Yeah, that's because they're going to
how bad.
Once again, they ain't got nothing to do with The Rock. That's got all to do with
this is
DC.
what people. This is how people are feeling, is what I'm saying.
Man,
that he
wrong.
basically caused the downfall of the DCEU.
Nah, they're wrong.
Okay,
I heard that whole thing about his demands on Black Adam.
We'll talk about it.
Oh God, I got a whole thing about that. That's like.
All right, that'll definitely be on the next show. But anyway, tell us what you think as far as who is better. Is Bautista better than The Rock? Where's John Cena land in this top 3 here? So, Terrence, take us home.
All right. Yeah. Look, I want to know. Take your WWE bias out of it. Who is the better actor, Bautista or The Rock? Looking at complete bodies of work, and I need some real roles. I don't need like he showed up for like 5 minutes, or like he was a villain in a movie where he barely had a few lines of dialogue, but because the movie was good, that made him a great actor. No. I need comparisons. This role versus this role, and this is why he's better than The Rock, or this is why The Rock is better than Bautista.
All right.
Make sure to subscribe and click notification button. I forgot to say that.
for Aspen, Art, Carla, and the Geek Father here, I'm Manny.
I'm Terrence.
And we'll see you next time.
Wait, guys, are you still here? I'm glad you're still here. All right, so if you look down, I mean, it's somewhere over here. Look down. We actually have a Patreon. So if you guys watch the show and you really like what we want to do and you want to help support the show and you want to help me get an editor so I can get to sleep at night because I'm really tired and you guys see all my mistakes in the episodes. So please go to patreon.com/thegoods. Give us a penny, give us a nickel, give us $1.
Just don't give us the finger.
Don't do that. But make sure you do donate something because we do have some giveaways. There's posters, there's t-shirts.
I'll sign something for you.
Exactly. So take a look, guys, and help us out. We appreciate it.